Hello, family. Welcome to African Esquire TV. I'm your host, Tony Cherie. One thing that I think is good that has come out in the last couple of years is a lot of people are kind of noticing that France is not this beacon of human rights like they pretended to be, and like they still pretend to be, but it's kind of hard for them to not face these contradictions in not just their history, but in their current conduct. So, of course, we know that more and more people have been calling out the colonialism of France towards Africans. But now it seems that France is trying to paint the narrative that so many have been painting when it comes to anything that questions the social order inside of Western countries. They're trying to paint the narrative that the anti-French sentiment is due to Russia and Turkey fueling anti-French sentiments in Africa. So I'm going to read from this article and let's discuss. Russia and Turkey are fueling anti-French feelings in Africa by playing on post-colonial resentment. Stop right there. Post-colonial resentment. That just shows you right there that dude's not in the right mind. This is not post-colonial resentment. And post-colonial resentment, by the way, if it was post-colonial resentment, is completely appropriate, more so for the fact that nothing has been done to undo what was done under the legalized, recognized colonialism. Nothing has been done to undo the conditions that people are living with, people who are living on cents a day, children that are dying from starvation. Nothing's been done to undo that legacy. But then Macron, he goes on to say, which has so much nerve, he says parts of the anti-French sentiment in Africa results from decades of maintaining a very institutional relationship with Africa through heads of states and companies, but also a strategy by some African leaders and particularly foreign powers such as Russia and Turkey. A very institutional relationship. Let's stop right there again. I feel like I'm gonna keep stopping in this article. When you're talking about very institutional, I hope what he's at least admitting is that the institutions that existed in colonialism are still intact today. When you're talking about the institutions of colonialism that allowed for France and other colonial powers to completely raid African resources, to completely destroy any livelihood, any ownership, collective ownership of the Africans to their resources, those institutions still exist. So when you're saying maintaining a very institutional relationship, I think what you mean to say is maintaining a neo-colonial relationship post explicit and clear the colonial relationship that existed previously. But he goes on to say that it must be from Russia and Turkey. We must not be naive on this topic, he says. Many of those who comment, who make videos, who are present in French-speaking media are paid by Russia or Turkey. Okay, guys? So maybe I'm being hired by Russia right now. France is one of the biggest foreign investors in Africa, with 53 billion in 2018, according to data from the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. The country has deployed more than 5,000 troops in the Sahel region to combat Islamic groups there as part of Operation Barkhane. Emmanuel Macron said that he regrets that his words on radical Islam have been distorted, largely by the Muslim Brotherhood. He says that he's attacking Islamic terrorism, not Islam, adding that 80% of the victims are Muslim. The French president said that he'll have decisions to make about Barkhane in coming months and that it needs to be a clear reiteration from partner countries in the Sahel that they want France by their side. All right, so this is some nerve, right? First of all, let's go to the Russia and Turkey thing. Why is it that anytime that things are challenged in the social order in the West, that the go-to is to say that this must be from Russia? Now, let's just say it was from Russia. I'm sure, maybe some types of things are instigated by other countries, other powers. Fine, let's say it is from Russia. Do you think that they put inside of our minds the fact that we are colonized? Do you think that they put that in our minds, or do you think that we came to that realization on our own? Do you think that they put into our minds the fact that we are being exploited? Do you think that they told us that, or do you think that our day-to-day lives prove that? Now, maybe, of course, there's some online groups that might reinforce what already exists. But if you're not willing to deal with the fact that can independently come to our own conclusions about our conditions, then you're naively trying to pass on these narratives that we don't think for ourselves. And that's really the coded racism of this. And I've heard it many times I'm thinking about in the United States, people on the left who go with this narrative. Africans in America, they can't think for themselves. When they say that they're against Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, they're not thinking for themselves. That's Russia. That's them putting things in their head. The fact that they didn't vote for Hillary, that's Russia. Not that we can make conclusions. Our lives haven't changed with Trump, Obama, Clinton's, Bush, Reagan. We're still living the same existence of being on the bottom of the social toll, regardless of who's in power. So why would we dignify you, who has given us nothing, with support? We can't reach those own independent conclusions. It must be that we're being manipulated by foreigners. Do you understand the ridiculous, racist, coded implications of what they're saying? And so to the fact of France and Africa. It's just so disgusting to me that even after the things come out about how France has been taking the African resources, how France has been having their fighters go into Africa to ensure their interests, and then of course the colonial tax, meaning the fact that France has been have been having the institutional relationships of African reserves being stored in France. Even whenever people call those things out, you can't say, we are wrong for doing these things. We're wrong for continuing these policies. We're wrong for continuing the legacy of colonialism through these policies that reinforce it. You can't say we're wrong. Instead, you want to point the finger and say that we're backwards, that we're being deceived, and that we don't have enough independence of mind to be able to articulate our own conditions. That is the racist nature of France. And I'm only happy that he continues to open his mouth, because it's like every time the dude opens his mouth in regard to Africa, it's just there's no black or white. He's clearly, or rather, it says black and white. He's clearly someone who has a racist outlook on how Africans should not be in control of their own destinies and not be in control of their own countries and their own resources and all of those things. So what are your thoughts on this? Macron, once again, opening his mouth and letting us know that he is a colonist, every bit of a colonist, and that I wouldn't even say he's a neo-colonialist. He's just a colonist. And he opens his mouth and he lets us know that he completely agrees with the French occupation of Africa and them continuing to push their propaganda through that we need them and that they don't need us, which is completely backwards, of course. We know this reverse. They need us. We don't need them. So that's all I have on this. I'd love to see your comments, and I will see you in the next video.